Grab your D20s and get ready for another thrilling episode of Chat TPK, your go-to podcast for killer conversations about all things geek culture. Welcome back to our loyal listeners and a hearty hello to our new friends that are tuning in. Today, we're diving deeper into yet another captivating D&D discussion. I'm your host Mike, and today's episode is one we have been itching to bring to life for quite a while. Now, I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about D&D, but I have invited some experts to guide us through today's adventure. Returning to our show is the ever insightful Martyn. Good afternoon, Martyn.
Hello, how are you?
Very, very well. Now, you probably hear this. My throat's feeling a bit sore, so I may need to lean on you this afternoon, Martyn, because your voice sounds much, much nicer than mine.
Well, thank you. I will try and keep my dulcet tones prepared.
Wonderful. Oh, he's actually making an effort now. It isn't just you that we have got with us, Martyn. We also have another little friend who has appeared on a previous podcast with you, and that is Rick. Good afternoon, Rick.
What ho, friends?
Oh, podcast friends.
A little friend. You know what? I've been called little so many times today. I think I'm normal sized.
Hi, Rick.
I'm just far away.
Tell our
That's
listeners
true.
how tall are you?
Give them all your personal details. Rick, are you well?
I am well, thank you.
Fantastic. It's good to have you with us. It's been a few weeks since we last had our previous episode about our favourite combos. Class combos, which I think really went really well. And we've also done our favourite spells as well in our first episode. So if you haven't listened to those, be sure to go listen to mine, Rick and Martyn's conversation. Alas, we do have somebody else that is going to be popping his Chat TPK cherry. Sam is with us. Sam, how are you?
Good evening. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm apart from the voice, I'm all good. But actually,
Apart from the voice.
I'm actually really happy to have you here, Sam. And you know what? You are going to have a lot of times this evening of me agreeing with you, as you are one of my DMs. So I'll be on your side for most of the episode. I promise you that.
Well,
I copy, yes. That's not okay.
Yeah.
I'm expecting some free inspiration.
We'll see.
Fingers
We'll see how well
crossed.
this goes.
Yeah, it
but no,
could be. Good. It's
good to be
wonderful
on.
to have you. Sam, what's your kind of background? Because the viewers or the listeners will know Martyn and Rick a little bit by now, but you're brand new, you're fresh, you're exciting. What can you tell us about yourself?
I'm not sure I'd use exciting to describe myself, but we'll start there. Well, I've been playing D&D for quite a while now, on and off. Probably the best part of maybe 20 years. Started
Fine.
with 3.5 with Rick here back when we were children, where we kind of dabbled, but we didn't really play.
We made a lot of characters based on...
We made a lot of characters, we rolled a lot of dice, but never actually played a full campaign until maybe 4 or 5 years ago was when I really started sort of getting into it properly.
Just before lockdown and stuff.
Sort of just before lockdown, and really it was during lockdown that I kind of really fell into the DM role. Like I said, I'd played as a player on and off every so often.
Are you a forever DM? Would you say?
Yeah, I'd say so. I've played in the odd one shot run by these guys, but yeah, I'm mostly DM.
Okay. Is that through choice or you're just too kind?
Maybe a bit of both. I really enjoy. I really enjoy DMing.
Good,
I really enjoy
good.
running the game. It's kind of my bag, I think, more than playing.
No. And we are all players in one of your games, which we all thoroughly enjoy.
Thank you.
So, yeah, good. It's wonderful to have you. We are going to be talking about a D&D topic, as I have said, and that topic will get the palates wet of all the loot hoarders. Is that how you say it? Palates wet? Wet the palates?
Yes,
Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it?
it is.
It does sound a
but I
bit
don't
weird.
like
Let's moisten their palates.
We'll cut that out.
That's a horrible spin of phrase.
Yeah, we'll tickle the fancies. Basically, if you like loot and items in D&D, this is the episode for you, because we're going to be discussing some of our favourite items with a focus on roleplay. So all the items that we will be talking about tonight will have specific uses to impact either negatively or positively the roleplay elements of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, Sam, as it is your first time, it would be a bit mean of me to make you go first, so I won't.
Okay.
But I think Martyn, Rick, and me, how about we roll a d20 and see who has to go first?
Oh.
The lowest roll goes first. So I got a 13. Martyn, what did you get?
Mine was a 16.
And Rick?
I got a 5.
5. Well, looks like Rick has lucked out this time, and you're going first.
Oh, I see. It's backwards.
Let's go backwards, yeah. Lowest roll goes first. It's not like initiative.
I've been brainwashed by 5th edition for initiative.
Yeah.
You have the shortest numerical straw.
This is
Essentially,
true.
yeah. Definitely. So what item are you going to bring to today's discussion that we can try and pick apart and think about its real uses, both bad and good?
I want to talk to you all today about the Hat of Disguise.
Ooh.
So, brief overview. The Hat of Disguise is an uncommon, wondrous item. It does require attunement. While wearing this hat, you can use an action to cast the Disguise Self spell from it at will. The spell ends if the hat is removed. The Disguise Self spell, first level spell of illusion. You can make yourself, including your clothing, armor, weapons, and other belongings on your person, look different until the spell ends or until you use your action to dismiss it. You can seem 1 foot shorter or taller and can appear thin, fat, or in between. You can't change your body type, so you must adopt a form that has the same basic arrangement of limbs. Otherwise, the extent of the illusion is up to you. The changes wrought by this spell fail to hold up to physical inspection. For example, if you use the spell to add a hat to your outfit, luckily you already have a hat. Objects will pass through the hat, and anyone who touches it would feel nothing or would feel your head and hair. If you use this spell to appear thinner than you are, the hand of someone who reaches out to touch you would bump into you while it was seemingly still in midair. To discern that you're disguised, a creature can use its action to inspect your appearance and must succeed on an intelligence investigation check against your spell save DC.
Okay. Just straight on the off of that, just before you move on, so it literally is an illusion, because it mentioned about bumping in, like if you've got a big fat belly and you want to look thinner, you're actually not.
True. It is an illusion, yeah.
Interesting. I like the sound of this. This has, I think, some good applications. What do we think, gentlemen? A good item, this one?
I think it's a really good item, yeah.
Absolutely. I think there's nothing in this at all that will really stop you doing whatever you want to do. Like, the only real delineating factors that they've got is you can't massively change your own form, which isn't really very restricting. If you're thinking about like disguising yourself, it's not like, I'm going to disguise myself as a cat or something. It's just, I'm going to make myself look, in my case, maybe about 5 stone lighter and about a foot taller would be nice. But I mean, that seems like all right.
Is this you projecting, Martyn, or
a little bit?
I'm bringing out Martyn's insecurities with this one.
Now, it mentions about the 1 foot taller, 1 foot shorter. Obviously, that does eliminate you being able to try and disguise yourself as something like a Goliath, as that they are a little bit too tall. And I guess a gnome, as they're quite a bit shorter than a typical humanoid. So it has got some limitations there on what sort of race you want to portray.
This is true, but
yeah, it keeps you within the confines of what you already are, doesn't it? It stops you, like Martyn says, going too wacky with it, I suppose. You know, as opposed to sort of like a changeling's change self ability, in which you can grow and shorten yourself. This is a bit more limiting, but it still allows you to do a lot of things with it. It still opens itself up to like stealth play, role play. Yeah, I think it's a really good
the role play applications of this.
Yeah, the reason I chose it was role play, definitely. So you want to infiltrate the bandit camp and you've already killed a patrol. You disguise yourself as a wounded bandit that you just killed, beat up, tied up, whatever, and you run back going, oh my god, the patrol's been destroyed on the road. You've opened yourself up to what would have been a combat encounter where you run up a hill against a bandit camp to a role-play encounter where you have to try and lie and, persuade the bandits to maybe send out another patrol or to bar the gates with you already inside or something along those lines.
It gives you a straight into a situation which you probably wouldn't have access to without it. So
yeah,
that's a pretty.
It opens up
powerful.
other avenues, doesn't it, for everything really? Any kind of encounters that you come across.
I think that the fact that you need to attune to it is quite a big deal, though. Maybe not at early levels when you're not awash with magical items, but it's something that you need to consider, considering you only have got 3 slots.
It is something you will probably abandon later on, I think. But later on, you've got your wizard with you who can cast shape change on you if you really need to infiltrate again. Or what's the other spell? The better version of disguise
Polymorph.
self, alter self.
You've got
Alter self, yeah.
but polymorph will do stuff because you can polymorph people into other people.
Yeah, there's much better higher level options, isn't there, than disguise self. Disguise self is a very very low level spell as it is.
But it's only an uncommon item.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this is the win for it. It's an uncommon item that gives you access to a low level spell. Yes, while you might not have use for it all the way through tier 3 and tier 4 play, if you've had it from tier 1, tier 2, you've had use of it, and it's always in your back pocket. Sure, that attunement thing, it's important in higher tier play, but if you're going into a circumstance where this is going to be particularly useful, you'll probably take the time to unattune to something and reattune to this if you haven't got any other options. It's not going to take you all that long. So, sure, it's a big deal if you think that this is potentially then going to lead into a situation where you're going to need that one thing that you've just unattuned to make way for it. But other than that, it's not a massive deal, that attunement requirement. I think it's a fair balance. I think without it'd be spammed a lot. Like you'd pass it amongst people in the group, and it could potentially cause some slightly derailing shenanigans, which we know are fun. But
I mean, we haven't actually done a podcast on Baldur's Gate 3 yet, and that's definitely something that we're going to look to put into the pipeline. But there's an item I can think of in Baldur's Gate 3 that is extremely similar, which I think if you pre-ordered it in the digital deluxe version, you got it, and that was the Mask of Many Faces, which I think was Fane's mask from Divinity Original Sin 2.
See the skelly boy.
He's the skeleton, and he obviously needed to change his appearance because undead were not welcome within the lands of Divinity. So therefore, Larian, who made this mask, and I think that's the most similar thing I can think of item within video games, and that isn't attunable in the game, and you can pass it around all your characters, and you can really, really abuse it quite a lot. In fact, it's kind of like a cheese. You steal something, whack on the mask, and you haven't stolen it. So I can kind of see where that kind of point you're trying to make there, Martyn, in regards to the spamming and the passing around, because it is being done within Baldur's Gate 3.
Do you want to? And you feel free to say no. If we go around and just say a thing that came to mind when you saw the Hat of Disguise that you think your favourite character would do with it, roleplay wise.
That's interesting.
And feel free to say no and edit this part entirely out.
I think it's a cool idea. My favourite character would throw it away and use one of his spells that does it better. Because my favourite characters are high-level wizards. Sorry.
That's
the favourite character that I've played was a changeling, so she wouldn't use it anyway.
Yeah, you wouldn't need it. Okay.
You wouldn't need it.
Who's your favourite character, Rick, that you've played as? Would they use this item?
It's hard to say who my favourite character that I've played as is. I think it would be my kobold rogue, who would definitely use it to try and make themselves look more like a dragonborn. Fail the first deception check that they came across by talking in a high-pitched and squeaky voice and get immediately found out.
And only be able to be really about a foot taller than a kobold anyway. So
just
dwarf dragonborn.
Or a slightly taller kobold.
Now, can I just say, would this change the voice? Or just the look?
No, you just look different. But if you combine
Okay.
it with the actor feat,
Well, this then does make my decision on whether my favourite character, who you actually all play with, my favourite character that I've played with is my barbarian Jury, and he's quite stupid. He's obviously very tall as well, so could you imagine him like putting this hat on, trying to disguise himself as like another NPC, male or female, but he's too stupid to try and mimic someone's voice. And obviously he's really tall, so you can imagine like an 8-foot woman going, "Good day to you."
Do you know what? In Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yeah,
times where Robbie Williams kind of slightly breaks character. So like, help is on the way, dear, and he's got kind of got that gruff, masculine, little
White chicks.
undertone. Oh god!
just, yeah, I can just imagine my character Jury just having moments like that. So it would not be a good item for him to use at all. But yeah, no, interesting question, Rick. I like that. Maybe we could discuss that about all the items with our favourite characters. I like that. Just one last thing about this item. If it's being used for something like infiltration, which definitely has got a lot of use for that, would something like greater invisibility just completely negate the need for this, or not?
The circumstances are completely different.
Yeah.
The need to be invisible and the need to be disguised are two completely different scenarios.
Okay.
Yeah, because invisibility implies pure stealth, doesn't it? Whereas disguising yourself, you can, like you say, you can speak to people and you can try and pretend to be somebody else, or
you
past
could
people
get
another way.
information as part of your infiltration.
Yeah,
You can hide in plain sight, basically.
Yeah,
And
you could literally, in the bandit example, you could literally just walk into the bandit camp.
Yeah, you do.
speak to
You do
them
make
as
a
one of their own.
good point.
the duration of greater invisibility as well is 1 minute, and the duration of disguise self is 1 hour, and you can cast it at will with the hat instead of burning your 5th level spell slots.
Yeah,
for greater
fair play.
invisibility.
Yeah, it is a 5th level one. Yeah, so that is quite a high level spell slot to burn. Now they say there's no silly questions, but if there are silly questions, I'll be damn sure to ask them.
No, I think that's a valid question.
The only people who have ever said there's no such thing as a stupid question are the people who have never worked in customer service.
Or teaching.
Or police.
People who've just never spoke to another person.
There are always silly questions. But yeah, fair enough. Right now, Rick, that's a really good item to bring to the discussion. I will move on. I will offer something up for us to discuss, and that is an item that I think has a wonderful amount of applications within roleplay. Sending stones. I'll read out sending stones. It is a wondrous item, uncommon as well. And sending stones come in pairs, with each smooth stone carved to match the other, so the pairing is easily recognised. While you touch one stone, you can use an action to cast the sending spell from it. The target is the bearer of the other stone. If no creature bears the other stone, you know the fact as soon as you use, and you don't cast the spell. Once sending is cast through the stones, they cannot be used again until next dawn. If one of the stones in a pair is destroyed, the other becomes non-magical and inert. So useless, basically. So it does say as a note here, it's mainly used for communication. That's kind of a given. It's for passing messages. I just think that this is wonderful because the actual spell sending isn't really limited to a distance so much. It can pretty much go as far as you need. So if you're on the same plane, no problem. You can talk to, if you're sort of coastwise, you can talk to your mate in Baldur's Gate if you're a Neverwinter. Not an issue. That could be quite useful in some large campaign games with quests that span over a continent. Could also be used to talk to people over planes, although Rick, I think you mentioned to me earlier there is a small chance of it failing, but still that ability to potentially talk across planes. Are there any other things that can do that? Would I have to plane shift to go and communicate with people?
Off the top of my head, I don't know if there are many other things that can communicate through planes. Divine intervention, I suppose, if you're a high-level cleric.
Yeah.
I suppose it depends on how much you want to cheese it, right? Like you could do something like if you knew where someone was going or where they were from, you could potentially do banishment or
Yeah.
plane shift or something like that, and kind
Banish
of do it
someone
in a
and say, tell your boss
cheesy
I said
kind of way.
hello.
Yeah, you know, like a really cheesy kind of way.
Slightly metagamery, but yeah, I do kind of get that. Yeah, but fair
And
enough.
also, it's only a 5% chance that the message fails.
Yeah, so it's
And
not high.
even if it does fail, there's nothing to stop you just resending that message.
The next day.
Or would you have to? Yeah, you have to do it the next day, wouldn't you? Because you cast.
You
would
could
you have to do it
use
the next day?
You could use Dream, but that's a 5th level spell.
And do they have to be asleep?
They do have to be asleep.
Yeah. So that's again that could be useful, but it does have a bit of limitation on it. It's just a really, really quite useful item. It's uncommon, so it's not something that is going to be hard to find if you go into most magical item shops in a big town or city. There's a good chance it might be being sold if the DM is kind. Just to also put this in perspective as to how attainable it is, I use this wonderful website called Magic Item Price Checker. I didn't actually check your price, Rick, for your Hat of Disguise, but I would just check it now. According to this, a Hat of Disguise typically runs for 5,000 gold pieces.
Wow, that's expensive.
Sending stones, 2,000 gold pieces.
That's odd because they're the same rarity.
Yeah.
That is weird. I would have expected significantly less. So based
Yeah,
on Xanathar's Guide to Everything's expansion on buying magic items, uncommon items should be 1d6 times 100. So the maximum an uncommon item should cost really is 600 gold pieces.
Plus the 100 gold pieces it takes to search for them.
Yeah, like obviously you're going to
Oh.
include your time.
It's significantly less, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a tenth of the price.
So this website is talking waffle.
It's probably based on the old DMG buying
Okay.
magic item stuff.
Yeah, because they used to be a lot more expensive, I think, but Xanathar's made them a bit more accessible. Just
Attainable, yeah.
They used to be pretty unattainable, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, they've made common and uncommon quite common,
Mhm.
but they've made the rare and above like honestly really quite expensive. You're
Yeah,
talking, I think you're talking minimum 10 grand for a rare,
Wow.
something like that.
Yeah, that is a lot.
No, what is it? It's 2d10, so minimum will be 2 grand, but max will be
20, yeah.
20 grand. Yeah.
Fair. So back onto sending stones, have all of you used them in the past? And if you have, did you have a good experience using them?
Yeah, they were the kind of item that they became such a part of the general gameplay in the campaign that I was running at the time that you almost stopped thinking about it. Like you just accepted that it was like a standard given. These are the kind of items that I think should be relatively common / uncommon in a game rather than rare or legend. I think they've got the rarity absolutely spot on because the amount of utility that they give, even beyond like the massive distances that you were talking, just like the walkie-talkie, I'm in a different room in the same building kind of stuff. It's a fantastic item. It's really good.
Yeah. Sam, being a DM yourself, have you noticed players use this quite a lot, or?
Oh yeah, they use them massively. As soon as you give them, they're constantly thinking of ways to use them. And I've noticed it kind of encourages people. I know they say never split the party, but it encourages people to split the party, which as a DM can be
Nightmare.
interesting to say the least. Yeah. But it encourages scouting. I think there's certain classes that benefit from that, and certainly the party would definitely benefit from scouting. You could send a rogue ahead with a sending stone, and they could sort of give you the rundown of what they're seeing, without having to have the big clunky paladin 5 feet behind them, ruining all the stealth checks.
Yeah. Fair play.
I've used them to scout, but my favourite use I saw for them was the party pulled one out of a wall that was the old base of the big bad that they were tracking. And the big bad was this powerful wizard who knew that they'd taken their sending stone, and so would send them little congratulatory messages or death threats or anything in between every day. At a random time every day, sending stone would pop up and go, "Well done for killing my henchman. Unfortunately, I have 10,000 more exactly the same."
So,
That's quite a clever way of using them.
yeah, a lot of NPC application. That sounds really good. I like that.
One of my favorite things about this item is the return on investment. Whether you found it or bought it, as a comparison to the Hat of Disguise, which again, completely different applications of these items.
Yeah.
But if you think they're both uncommon, so they're going to be roughly around the same price or the same chance of you finding them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Hat of Disguise gives you access to a first level spell, the Sending Stones give you access to a third level spell with some restrictions.
Yeah. Which makes you wonder why it's cheaper. Really bizarre.
I think
Well-
it's probably the restrictions. You know, you can only talk to the person who's got the other stone.
Yeah.
So
You can only do it
could
once
call
a
it like
day.
so you could call it like a 1.5 level spell because of the restriction that you've got
Yeah.
on it. But I think it's the kind of thing that, especially early game, you're going to find so much use for, because people aren't going to have sending or want to use that third level spell slot on it anywhere near as often as a first level spell.
Yeah, that third level spell slot's, game changing. The difference between a TPK and a not TPK.
Yeah.
Hypnotic Pattern, Fireball, Lightning
Fireball,
Bolt, all third level spells you're going to want to keep in your back pocket.
You're probably
might
not
not-
going to keep sending in your back pocket.
Yeah, to call the
over them,
rogue
are you?
back while he's dicking about.
You typically wouldn't. You typically wouldn't prioritize a role play themed sort of spell as one of your higher level spell slots, would you? You kind of leave that for your high damaging or crowd controlling sort of spells, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah, there's much more useful third level spells that you would take as a wizard, for example, than sending. I would suggest.
Yeah, and if we think about the other people who get sending, so bards get it and clerics get it, it's the same for those. It's not just wizards. Like bards at that level are going to be doing mass crowd control. Clerics are going to be doing things like spirit guardians and stuff. So yeah, there's much better things to be using that third level spell slot on.
Yeah, definitely.
And are they into tuning? They're not attunable, so that's one thing also in its favour, I would say, the fact you don't have to attune to it. So that's good. But no, yeah, I just thought I'd just mention sending stones because I think they are a definitely valuable tool in your roleplay toolkit. Moving on to Martyn. Martyn, what item have you brought for us today?
So I'm going to talk to you today about an item called Nolzor's Marvelous Pigments.
I've never heard
Now,
of it.
this is a very rare Wondrous item. Those of you who have done, like myself, some shopping in the past, and maybe have got some of the Army Painter D&D sets, may recognize the name because they've titled these painter sets based off this item. But ultimately, this item is typically found in 1d4 pots inside a fine wooden box with a brush, weighing 1 pound in total. These pigments allow you to create 3-dimensional objects by painting them in 2 dimensions. The paint flows from the brush to form the desired object as you concentrate on its image. Each pot of paint is sufficient to cover 1,000 square feet of a surface, and it lets you create inanimate objects or terrain features such as a door, a pit, flowers, trees, cells, rooms, or even weapons, as long as they are up to a maximum of 10,000 cubic feet. It takes 10 minutes to cover 100 square feet. When you complete the painting, the object or terrain feature depicted becomes a real, non-magical object. Thus, painting a door on a wall creates an actual door that can be opened to whatever is beyond. Painting a pit on a floor creates a real pit, and its depth counts against the total area of the objects that you create. However, nothing created by these pigments can have a value greater than 25 gold pieces. If you paint an object of greater value, so a diamond or a pile of gold, the object will look authentic, but close inspection will reveal that it is made from paste, bone, or some other worthless material. If you paint a form of energy, such as fire or lightning, the energy appears but then dissipates as soon as you complete the painting, doing no harm to anything. So it has absolutely zero combat application. Well, depending, but you can't say, I'm going to paint fire and set someone on fire.
Yeah.
However, the limits of this item are pretty much your imagination. So while many of the examples that it gives in kind of the text for this item are very much based around things like traversal and exploration, you can use it for much, much more. So, for example, you could paint a guard's uniform for the place that you're trying to infiltrate that will then become that guard's uniform that you can then wear and go and infiltrate it. Or you could literally, your imagination is the end. You could paint a mustache on the floor and then stick it on your face. Or, like this is one of my favorite items because it has very few limitations. The only thing that you can't do is abuse it to create money and magic items, basically. Everything else, the world is your oyster. If you can dream it, you can create it.
Now, this might be a bit obscure, but do you remember the cartoon from, we're all fairly similar ages, from when we were younger, called Penny Crayon?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Well, it is about a girl that had a magical set of crayons, and literally anything that she draw on came to life, and so they managed to get a few series out of that.
What I always think of when I think of this item, and probably a slightly more accessible and enjoyed by a wider audience cartoon / show, is Roadrunner. Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Wile E. Coyote used to paint tunnels on the sides of cliffs.
Yeah.
The Roadrunner would then run straight through. It's that kind of principle.
Yeah.
If you walk up to a mountain and you're like, I want to be on the other side of that mountain but don't want to climb it, literally just paint a tunnel. You might have to reapply depending on the size because, of course, you are limited to a certain number of cubic feet. But considering that you are going to be finding a minimum of one pot, and one pot covers 1,000 square feet, you're in a pretty good situation. But that's the kind of thing that I think of, because you could potentially use it in that kind of situation as well, but almost in reverse. Like, I'm going to go through there, it's going to create a tunnel, you get to the other side and you paint a door, and whoever's chasing you just head first into the door.
You paint a mountain again.
Fair. Oh no! This is a what text is this from? Because this is quite a fresh one for me.
Oh, so this is old school original 5e
really?
DMG. Yeah. So it's not from any of the newer releases. This is, if I remember rightly, and I could be wrong. Sam, Rick, correct me. You've played earlier editions. I don't think this is a 5e original. I think it existed before 5e.
It was in third edition,
Yeah, I seem to remember it from third.
I think. I said that very confidently, and then I'm like, is it?
Own it. Own it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you say it with confidence, it's true.
It's correct.
Have either of you, Rick or Sam, used this before in a game?
No, I've never used it.
No, I don't think I've ever seen a very rare magic item.
Oh, really? Not what that sort of high level.
Oh no, I have.
Gameplay.
I have. One of my characters is wearing one right now, as we speak.
So yeah, it is very rare, which means that it is obviously going to be quite difficult to come across or purchase within a game. But
It's middle of the scale. So that scale goes all the way up through, like legendary and artifact. So you've got common, uncommon, very rare, rare, very rare, legendary artifact. So it's kind of like bang in the middle.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get this like level 2, level 3.
No.
Which I think is absolutely fair when you consider the possible applications of this item. Having it at that early level is potentially game breaking.
Now, you mentioned its combat applications about like running away from a guard or something. How would it be just an action to quickly paint something, or are we talking of more of a longer time scale here?
So it specifies in the text that it takes 10 minutes to paint something that covers 100 square feet.
Okay.
I don't want to go down the whole rules as written kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't specify if you want to draw anything smaller.
DM
So
discretion?
It doesn't say that it's kind of DM fear on that one. If you want to draw something really small, is it going to take me a minute if it's only like a 10 square foot, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't specify. You would assume that's the mathematical principle of it, but it's up to the DM.
Fair play. Okay. Well, that's a super, super interesting item that I'll definitely look to do a bit of research on, and how I could use that in one of my own games that I DM in future. Maybe allow my characters to find it in a chest.
I like the idea of painting something to hide behind with it, or painting like a hole to get into, or roleplay wise, like you said, uniforms, disguises. Those rubber masks from Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Make one of them.
Oh, you could definitely use it quite easily as part of a disguise, couldn't you?
Mm.
If you combine the heart of disguise with that, you could do some cool stuff with
Convince a tribe of primitive idiots that you're a god.
it.
So literally, the limit of this is just the imagination of the player, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the cost restriction. You can't
Yeah.
create anything that's worth lots of money,
Yeah.
and you're limited by the amount of paint that you've actually got. But that's about it.
And obviously, it can't be alive either, so you can't just like paint yourself a friend.
Oh wow, that was a little bleak.
No, I don't mean you personally, but just anyone. Anywho, yeah, wonderful item.
One
Thank
of
you,
the
Martyn.
first things I thought of when I saw that was you could paint yourself a friend, and I don't know why. Like,
A lot of
I think I
projection
was
going on today.
still thinking as my little friendless rogue, and being like, oh, he could paint himself a little dragon friend, but he couldn't.
Just
Paint
need
yourself an
to.
inanimate one, a cuddly toy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cuddly toy.
yeah. No,
You could start
just
selling chibi versions of the party as cuddly toys.
Sam. This is your first podcast. Let's hear your
It is.
first ever contribution. What's the item that you want to chat about?
I would like to talk about. It's not necessarily one specific item. It's more of a group of items. And this is sentient / cursed items, which I think they both fall into sort of the same category here.
Mm-hmm.
They just open up so many possibilities, especially from a DM's perspective for story. You can build in backstory for characters. You could build in world building. You could build in side quests just from any of these things. I've got some quite good examples here.
Yep, go for it.
One that immediately sprung to mind when I thought about this was Black Razor. I've personally used Black Razor in a campaign before. It's a very, very powerful magic item in its own right. So it's a legendary greatsword that requires attunement by a creature of non-lawful alignment. It's a +2 greatsword that does extra damage to undead, and it devours things' souls, which is where the RP element comes in. So mechanically, once the creature is reduced to 0 hit points, it's insta-killed by this thing and it consumes its soul. Now, because this is both sentient and cursed, so the sword's purpose is to consume souls. It doesn't care whose soul it eats, including the wielder's. The sword believes that all matter and energy sprang from a void of negative energy and will one day return to it. Black Razor is meant to hurry that process along. It comes as a set of 3. I won't talk about the other ones because that could be a whole other podcast on its own right. It's got 2 friends that are also weapons. I say friends; they've got quite a unique relationship. But yeah, so this is both a cursed and sentient item. I like sentient items because I think you can, like I say, build some really cool stories with them. Using this as an example, in the campaign that I used it in, our character was a paladin, so he was a vengeance paladin, so I immediately had some conflict with him anyway, and he kind of fought this to consume the souls, which eventually drove him mad. Black Razor sort of got into his mind and was trying to convince him to consume these souls. Black Razor is quite an extreme example of a sentient weapon. You yourself are using a sentient weapon in one of our campaigns at the moment.
A sun sword,
the sun sword that communicates just through emotions. It just conveys certain emotions. And that's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum for these things, in that it's a very subtle way of introducing a bit of story, a bit of background about these weapons, about the world that you're in.
Well, Black Razor's not very subtle about it.
Black
Razor
Razor's-
goes, go out and eat me some
Yeah.
souls, or I will eat yours.
Precisely. Yeah, precisely. Black Razor's like, eat souls or you're next. You're next.
Yeah.
Whereas
the
Sun
Sun
Sword's
Sword
just kind
is
of
like, I feel sad.
yeah, I'm happy today. I'm sad today. But I think it introduces a cool dynamic.
Yeah, it's a lot subtler, but it is something that you could definitely play with and get a lot from. Now, one thing that I've noticed in my years of playing is that players tend to be a lot more hostile to NPCs more often than not. In that, if they don't get their own way, then fights usually occur a lot quicker. That they're not always as willing to try and talk things out. Whereas if you have an NPC that's, for instance, in a weapon, there's like a voice coming from the weapon. That's kind of harder to reconcile with fighting. So it might actually push them more towards having to do that role play, to try and go outside maybe their comfort zone and help a player develop their own skills.
It
Yeah,
really
definitely.
helps with cursed items. A lot of them say that you won't willingly let go of them. So even if you have an argument with your sword, like a crazy person, you can't then go, I'm going to drop you down a well, because while you can threaten it, you can't actually do it. And that leads to some quite good character moments, I think, where someone's desperate to get rid of this sword that's changing who they are as a person, but they cannot bring themselves to let go of it.
Berserker Axe come to mind for that one.
Yeah, that's a good example.
The parallel that I absolutely adore between cursed and sentient items is the way that they approach almost the same problem from two different angles. Cursed items will draw the role play out of the character on their own, because this is how you now feel, this is what you want, this is what you want to do. Whereas the sentient items are, like you were saying a minute ago, Mike, they're another NPC, basically, that allows them to interact with it. And both of these items is really just going to draw that person to some form of role play, either with the rest of the group, with themselves, or with the item.
Some character progression is going to come from it in some shape or form, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And that can be approached from, like you say, either curses or sentience, or both in the case of some items.
If you've watched the Critical Role show,
Vox Machina,
Grog with his sword.
Boy, have I watched that.
That gets bigger when you hit people with it. I've watched
Craven Edge?
animated one, Craven Edge, that's the one.
Yeah.
Where, spoiler alert, everyone, eventually it drives him to go to hit one of his friends, and he finds it really difficult to let go of it because it's making him more powerful and it's cursed, and that's a fine character moment.
Yeah. I think going back to that campaign that I mentioned about Black Razor as well, that was very similar, wasn't it? In that that drove him, it actually drove him to attack the party eventually, because he was like, Black Razor needed these souls, and it was driving this character mad.
Similar in one of my campaigns, actually. I'm doing Tomb of Annihilation, and I've got one character that is actually working for a patron who is asking for souls as well, and he is sneaking off away from the party and just killing off all the NPCs in the area. And the party then just, obviously, they know in real life what's happened, but obviously not to metagame. Their characters have no idea who keeps killing all these people around them. And yeah, obviously that could be delivered in the way of these cursed weapons as well, which adds a lot to the party and the story, and some interesting role playing moments. So
yeah, definitely
fantastic. Now, just because we don't want this pod to run too long today, we could probably talk about these items for a long time. We will be looking to come back on another episode about different items with a different focus, because obviously as today has been about roleplay, we could focus on things like combat, we could focus on things like traversal, lots of different things we could discuss. So we'll put a pause on this discussion for now, and we'll revisit items another time. But what we are going to get on with is this week's quiz time. Now, Martyn, Rick, you are no strangers to quiz time.
Mortal enemies after our first one.
Who won? Wasn't it Rick last time, wasn't it?
We're one apiece. Martyn won last time.
But that wasn't a quiz. That was who can kill the most people.
That was a one-turn
That's true.
task.
Kill the most ficticious enemies, I should specify.
just admitting to something
I've been
there.
working on this all week.
But yeah, in the last quiz time that you both played, it was spell-related. This week's quiz time, and Sam, this will be your first, so you will get to compete as well. It will be item-related. Now, should either of you, or any of you, should I say, get an answer right, you'll hear this sound. And if you get one wrong, you'll hear this sound. And if you wish to answer the question, you have your own buzzers. Now, we will keep your buzzers from last time, Martyn and Rick. Hopefully, they'll become synonymous with your winning ways. So, Martyn, this is your one here. Rick. Lovely, classic Wilhelm. And Sam, a bit of R2-D2, because you are a bit of a Star Wars fan, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
So those are our buzzers. If I hear that, I'll be coming to you. And if you get it wrong, it can be passed over. So maybe don't jump the gun, as it were. Okay, so... Gentlemen, are we ready to play?
No, but let's do it anyway.
I feel like I'm at a disadvantage here, but go on.
No, it's fine. Let's play quiz time. Okay, so question 1 for this week's quiz time is... It's a rare item which requires attunement. This wand has 7 charges. While holding it, you can use an action and expend 1 charge to speak its command words. For the next minute, you know the direction of the nearest creature hostile to you within 60 feet, but not its distance from you. The wand can sense the presence of hostile creatures that are ethereal. Oh, Rick, what do you think this item is?
A wand of enemy detection.
Ding, ding, ding. Absolutely correct. It is the wand of an enemy detection. That is 1-0 to you. Great job. Question number 2. It's a legendary weapon here, which also requires attunement, but only possible by a paladin. You gain a +3 bonus to attack and damage rolls made with this weapon. Oh, it's Rick again.
The Holy Avenger.
It is the Holy Avenger. Well done, Rick. That's 2-0. There's plenty of questions to come. I've got 10 questions available. If
I might
there's
run out of steam.
I feel like I'm sensing a pattern already.
Yeah, me too.
if there is a draw by the 10th question, I have got a tiebreaker, just so you're aware.
There's not going to be, Mike.
That's not going to happen.
Question number 3. A wondrous item, uncommon. This ceramic jug appears to be able to hold... Oh, Martyn, just in time.
I've forgotten the name. It's like the jug of water. The bound... Oh, flipping heck.
I'm not sure I can accept that, Martyn.
I don't think you can. And I think I've just given that away.
I'll put it on a steal. Who wants to go for it?
I'm having the same thought as Martyn. I know what it is, but I can't remember the name of it. It's the one that produces water.
It's the decanter of endless water.
That's the one.
You're all wrong.
Oh, shit.
It's the alchemy jug.
I was in too soon.
We jumped the gun there.
Yeah, all of you have there. That's fine. That's okay. So still 2 points to Rick, but we'll move on. Question 4 is a wondrous item, uncommon. Found in a small packet, this powder resembles very fine sand. There is enough of it for one use. When you use an action to throw the dust into the air, you and each creature and object within 10 feet become invisible. Oh, that was just Rick.
The dust of disappearance?
It is the dust of disappearance. encyclopedic knowledge from Rick
Just spend my
here.
evenings reading through.
Well done. 3
I'm sat
points
there
to
thinking,
Rick.
how many dusts are there? I'm going to wait for him to say the word invisible.
Yeah, I did the same thing. It would have been
Yeah.
good to get us with the dust.
I heard dust, and I was like,
coughing
I
and
could
sneezing.
say it now and be wrong, or
You gotta risk it for a chocolate biscuit, Martin. Question number 5. Wondrous item, legendary. This iron bottle has a brass stopper. You can use an action to speak the flask's command words, targeting a creature that you can see within 60 feet. If the target is native to a plane of existence other than the one you're on, the target must succeed on a DC. Martin?
is it the iron flask?
It is the Iron Flask. 1 point to you, Martin. Well done. Good job. So, halfway through the questions, 3 points to Rick, 1 point to Martin. Sam, we're still waiting for you to get a score
slacking.
on the board. It's okay. It's your first time. We're all a bit nervous on the first time. Question number 6. It's a ring, rare, and does require attunement. Whilst you wear this ring, difficult terrain doesn't cost you extra movement. In addition, magic can neither reduce your speed nor... Oh, Rick.
The ring of free action.
You bet it is, Rick. It is the ring of free action. 4 points to you, sir. Well done. Slightly harder one, this one, for question number 7. It's a potion. Very rare. When you drink this potion, it removes any exhaustion you are suffering and cures any disease or poison affecting you. Or, Martin?
Potion of Greater Restoration.
No.
No. Okay.
I'll carry on reading. For the next 24 hours, you regain the maximum number of hit points for any hit die you spend. The potion's crimson liquid regularly pulses with dull light, cooling to a mind a heartbeat. I did say it was
I
a
don't
tricky
know
one.
this one.
That's okay.
No, I don't know. I've
No
never
problem.
heard this one before.
Okay, this is the...
Can I rebang?
Well, because Sam and Rick don't know it, and to keep things interesting, yes, Martin, go for it.
Potion of Vitality.
Is correct. Well done. The Potion of Vitality. 3-2-0. Sorry, Sam.
I'm going to get nothing. I'm resigning myself to that.
Question number 8 is armor. Rare. Does require attunement. You gain a +2 bonus to AC against range attacks whilst you wield this shield. In addition to this, whenever an attacker makes a range attack against you, I'm going to come to you,
Shield of
Rick.
Arrow Attraction.
Oh, right. Judge rules here. It's the Shield of Arrow Catching.
Oh. Yeah,
I
no,
think
you
that
know
was
what?
close enough.
Arrow
I think that was
Attraction's
close
a
enough, to be
different
fair.
thing. It's a cursed armor.
You're thinking of missile attraction, aren't you?
Yes,
I
you
am,
are.
yeah.
You are.
You don't
And
want
I've
that
told you the answer now.
I think I don't want that point, thank you.
Okay.
I think Martin
That's-
and Sam should get the point instead.
You know what? You
Yeah,
guys
50
can have
points.
half a point. You can have half a point. Half a point to both of you. Apologies, Rick. That was very close, though. It was very close. I probably should have just said no and offered it up. But yeah, as I didn't offer it up, I will give you both half a point. Coming to question number 9. Armour again. Uncommon this time. Medium or heavy, but not hide. This is a light, flexible metal. A chain shirt or breastplate can be worn... Oh, it's Rick.
I might be wrong, actually. Mithril armor?
It's not wrong. It's right. It is mithril armor, putting you onto 5 points.
Thought I buzzed in too soon.
Now, I don't think you can be caught. I don't think you can
Nope.
be caught here.
You're going to have to come up with some more questions, Mike.
Quick.
I've got some. I've got 2 more questions. This could potentially help you draw, Martin, because of what are you on? You're on
One. What? Well, 1.5.
1.5. So it's
thought you
actually
were on-
just...
I thought you were
might
on
be
3.5.
2.5.
I don't even know anymore. Oh, no, yeah, two.
Yeah.
You definitely got more than one. You got more than me, so
Well, we'll still keep it interesting, because if Sam gets both of these correct, then he does surpass you, Martin. So we're playing for pride. Question number 10. It's a very rare rod. Whilst holding this rod, you can use your reaction to absorb a spell that is targeting you and not Martyn.
Rod of absorption.
Perfect is the answer. Rod of absorption. Lovely. Well done. That gives you another point. So what puts you on 4.5 or 3.5? What are we saying?
Let's take 4.5. That sounds good.
Okay.
I think it's 3.5 though, if I'm being honest with you.
I'll find out in the edit. Right, my last question, which was going to be a tiebreaker, but this might bring the scores slightly closer together, so it's a bit fairer. Question number 11. Weapon rare, requires attunement. You gain a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls. In addition, whilst you're attuned to it, your hit point maximum increases by 1 for each level you have attained. It is a cursed item. This axe is cursed. You are unwilling to leave the axe and part away with it. You have to keep it within reach at all times. You have disadvantage on attack rolls with all weapons other than this one. Whenever a hostile creature damages you whilst the axe is in your possession, you must succeed on a... Oh, Sam?
Oh, I think I might have got one. I might be wrong. The Berserker Axe.
We have mentioned it. It is the Berserker Axe. Well done, Sam. That puts you onto what? 1.5 or 2?
1.5, yeah. I got
1.5.
I can leave happy with having one question right. So.
There we go. Yep. Playing for pride, and you've definitely earned some with that answer. But with a whopping 5 points, pretty much unassailable, Rick, you've won this week's quiz time.
Do I win an item?
You ring a magical item, but because magic's not real.
Oh.
Sorry.
You win a
fuck all.
Congratulations.
Well done. Well done.
I'm gonna give you a homebrew magic item of my own, Rick, that you can have. Well, it's not my own. I stole it from the internet, where all the best things come from. I'm going to give you a ring that gives you an additional attunement slot. However, requires attunement.
Well, we could have a podcast episode about useless items as well, couldn't we?
Useless magic items.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. Right, well, that was this week's quiz time. Now, welcome back. Our last segment for this week's episode is going to be another Reality Radar. Now, Reality Radar is where we give you some of the interesting headlines that are featured in geek news, be it films, computer games, or TV. We will have our finger on the pulse and give you all the top stories. So to start us off on this week's Reality Radar, I want to discuss the fact that actually, out of all the stories that I've seen this week, IKEA paying people £13.15 an hour to serve meatballs in its virtual Roblox store. What is happening to this planet? Where are we going with video games?
Is this in the metaverse by any chance?
It's in Roblox, which I think you can play in the metaverse, but it is playable on things like tablets and PCs and phones.
Because you see, I've seen a lot of stuff like this within the metaverse.
Yeah.
Not directly, because I don't do that because it's weird. But like, digital is the way forward now.
Yep.
That makes like kind of perfect sense. I understand that there's so many medias and platforms and things that can be distributed and transferred digitally that the general principle makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But selling meatballs digitally for your digital character to eat, I assume, just seems a bit weird.
Now, if the player in the game is actually paying, using microtransactions to buy those meatballs, I can see how IKEA is making that money, or Roblox, by turn IKEA, is making this money to pay the people, but it's still just a bit odd.
It is. Like, are you going to get a bag of meatballs in the post if you buy it, or...
That sounds very unappetizing as well.
Right.
Also,
despite how good their meatballs are, I don't know if I want to receive them in the post, having thawed for 48 hours on their way to me.
Now, I don't know if you've played Roblox before, but you actually can't see people's real faces. So why are they not just using any computer-controlled character in the game just to do that job? Why do they feel the need to pay someone to do it? It's a bizarre story, and it makes me a bit worried as to where we are going as a society.
I
Apparently,
suppose it's
though,
the interaction, isn't it? You know, like
Yeah.
you'll be able to talk. You can't see their face, but it will be, "Hi, can I take your order today?" "Yes, I can do you 56 meatballs. That will be £100, please."
but with like stuff like AI becoming increasingly like, you could probably mimic the interaction you would get with a real person anyway.
You probably could, and it does say that you can change departments, change roles, and go and organise things on their website. But there is, not to be a cynical man, but there is a large part of me that thinks that this is just a attention grab for their new game coming out, and you actually could just populate it with AI and no one would know.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently, there
Yeah,
are
that's
only 10. There are only 10 paid shifts for possible applicants for this. They'll help customers and get promoted to move departments, as you've already said, Rick. And yeah, I kind of would agree with you there. It just seems like a big news headline story just to do a bit of promotion. Can't see it being a feature of the game widespread. But yeah, caught my attention, I have to say. Anything else within the recent headlines that has caught any of your attentions?
So for me, I'd say there's been a bit about the next or newest upcoming seasons, I should
Ooh.
say, of The Last of Us.
I
So,
like
Mike, I know this is something that you're very keen on yourself.
Love it.
So I've read quite recently that there is going to be multiple seasons. So there's going to be a season 2 and a season 3. However, season 2 is going to be noticeably shorter than season 1.
Because
But
season
they're
1 was
going to-
9 episodes, wasn't it?
Yep, season 1 was 9. If I remember rightly, 7 is going to be the number for season 2. But
Okay.
one of those is going to be a bumper extra long episode.
Nice.
Conversely, season 3 is going to be longer than season 1, just to try and wrap up that story. And for anyone who's played The Last of Us Part 2,
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense, because the way that they would have to split the narrative to have that kind of like that break between the seasons would have to be towards like the early part, because everything moves relatively quickly when you take out like the exploration and the combat aspects of the second half of the game. So I'm very excited for that. Obviously, Pedro Pascal has done a fantastic job in the first season. Absolutely fantastic. So loving to see him reprise the role. Looking forward to that bumper episode, to be honest. When I've seen the other shows that have done bumper episodes, I remember Game of Thrones, like season 5 or something. They're like, we're going to have like an hour and a half long episode, and it was the best episode of the season. I
Didn't they
imagine the same is
do
going to be
a
true.
big one for the fight at Winterfell? That was like an hour and a half or nearly 2 hours.
It was.
Wasn't it?
I could talk for ages about that episode because of how. No offense, if any of the people who were involved in the creating of that episode are listening, but the lighting on that episode was
Can't
so
see a
bad.
thing.
Oh
You
yeah,
cannot see
garbage, wasn't it?
70% of the episode anyway.
So I've got it on Blu-ray, and when you stream it or when it's put on TV, blacks get crushed within the picture. Even in Blu-ray, it's so difficult to pick out what's going on when they're actually when the fires have gone out, and it's so I know what you mean there. But yeah, in terms of The Last of Us, it should be a really, really good second series, because they're going to be delving into the second game. Don't want to give out any spoilers to people that haven't played the game, because they might be obviously interested to see what happens in the second series of this. But I have my own ideas as to where that series 2 will end, if they're going to make it slightly shorter and then have a big one for the third one. I think there's going to be a big thing that happens at the end of the series too.
I think they're probably going to stop a little short of where the game stopped and use that as the start of season 3.
Rick, Sam, have you played The Last of Us?
No.
I have not. I'm not a PlayStation player, so.
Okay. Have you seen the show at all?
Seen the show. Very much enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I have not seen the show because I've never played the game, so it never really.
Well,
I don't think you need to.
Radar.
You don't need to. No,
Yeah,
my
I've
wife
heard-
loved it,
I've
and
heard-
she's never touched it. So.
In relation to that, we like some of the recent adaptations that we've seen, like the Fallout one that you've done an episode on recently, where there is
Nice plug, thank you.
quite large chunks of the show that are fan service plugs,
Yeah.
right, to the people who played the game. You don't really see that anywhere near as much in The Last of Us, and it's just a really good dramatization.
It's a
of the
good
story.
drama. It's a good post-apocalyptic drama, and you don't need to have had any interaction. There are obviously like little bits in it that, if you are a fan, it does, as you say, pay service to that. But you can enjoy it just as much with never having played the game. So yeah, definitely, Sam. Be sure that's your homework to go check it out.
To go and watch The Last of Us.
It's just an excellent,
Fantastic.
excellent character-based story. It shows. It's just really good.
I have to add it to my watch list, my ever-growing watch list of things.
Give it priority. Anyway, anyone else want to bring anything to our reality radar?
Curveball.
Yep.
For a niche podcast, here's an even more niche thing for you. Warhammer, the guys who make Warhammer and Warhammer 40,000.
Yep.
New Skaven are out, or up for pre-order, or up for I don't know what they're up for, are being shown
Pre-sale.
on the Warhammer community page. And they look great. Love me some crack-addicted rats.
The new models are really, really nice.
What are they called, sorry? Skaven.
Skaven, yeah.
Skaven.
Are they the rat people?
They are.
Okay. I only know them from one of the Warhammer video games that I played.
From
Right now, I
Vermintide?
can't remember. Yes,
Vermintide, yeah.
yeah.
Good game. Games Workshop is the company that makes Warhammer, isn't it? So
Yes.
yeah, fantastic. Okay, and are these a new set that you've not been able to purchase before, or?
Yeah, these are brand new models for the new edition of Age of Sigmar, which is coming out in an unknown amount of time.
Sometime this year, but they were still running quite old models with that line from a game from the old world, which was before Age of Sigmar. So that's
which ended 10
15
years ago
years
and has since come back. More than 10 years ago, I think, actually, yeah.
it was a long time ago anyway that the old world ended, and then they brought in this new game. For those of you who don't know, they brought in Age of Sigmar after that, which was kind of with an updated rule set and a lot of updated models. And I would argue the Age of Sigmar model line are some of the nicest Games Workshop do.
Some amazing models. I don't play Age of Sigmar because no one in my gaming community picked it up, but I still picked up some eels to paint. Really good from the Ideneth Deepkin.
Mhm.
And I really enjoyed painting them.
Fantastic. Well, we will be sure to bring some stories from the world of model games. And what's the official sort of like genre of these sorts of games, would you call it?
Tabletop wargaming.
Just war games, yeah. Okay, good to know.
It's where D&D originated.
Yeah.
And Gygax back in the day and his friends were big tabletop war gamers, and they wanted to build a principle where they built in a little bit more role play in the early stages that took them to an epic conclusion where they would have like a war game scale fight towards the end.
Oh, fantastic. Right, my last thing before we wrap up this week then is going to have to be the fact that Netflix is apparently revealing yet more games to come to its streaming service. Now, I know quite a few of them are already making its way to the mobile platform, so you can download games straight from Netflix, but they also are looking to put games onto their TV service as well. Now, I don't know if either of you have experienced, or any of you have experienced something like the Xbox Cloud or GeForce Now, but those streaming services obviously require you to have no real hardware. You can just play it on your phone, you can play it on your TV, or whatever. Do you think that Netflix are trying to use their power within the market, their market share of things, TV and film content, to try and capture that set of gamers? Do you think they could be a force to be reckoned with?
They're certainly trying to branch out, aren't they? But it depends what games they've got going, because the Xbox already has its own streaming service. PlayStation do as well, do they?
Yep.
You know, you can already
PlayStation Now or something
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can already stream PC games. You know, you've got the Steam Deck and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think they've got the work cut out for them. If it's just going to be sort of like mobile style games that you can get on your phone anyway, I don't really see the market for the TV.
Mm-hmm.
If it was me, if I was CEO of Netflix,
Mr. John Netflix.
If I was Mr. J Netflix, I would make it, instead of it being a competition to those streaming services that are doing like AAA titles or whatever stuff like that, I'd have it more competition with the Nintendo's gaming styles, or what really brings like Nintendo into the household, where it is the family multiplayer games.
Couch co-op.
So if you remember back in the day on like Sky TV or whatever, there used to be like games that you could play with the remote.
Beehive Bedlam.
Yeah,
Beehive
Bedlam.
Bedlam,
Absolutely. That kind of thing where,
Yeah.
what should we watch? Oh, I don't know. Should we just play a game instead? And you know, that kind of thing, rather than it being, right, I'm going to smash Gears of War for 5 hours. That's the direction I think they should take with it, because the competition is extremely hot. And unless you've got fantastically fast internet, streaming games is just hard work at the moment.
I mean, casual gamers, like, you know, not wanting to be sexist here, but women of a certain age, like mothers, will sit and play like Candy Crush. Obviously, I imagine lots of other people play it as well, but that's the sort of stereotype I'm thinking of, that want to play those casual games. They probably also have something like a Netflix account and watch a lot of Netflix. What's to stop them just doing those sorts of games on their controller and getting that kind of like low stakes rush, as it were?
Yeah, that kind of game that would translate really well is the kind of thing that you'd want them to do. So I'll hold my hands up. I don't play Candy Crush, but I play like a lot of mobile phone games. We were talking earlier. I play Clash of Clans, like I've been doing for many, many years. If they were to go, you can now play Clash of Clans on your TV, I'd be all over that.
Yeah. And there probably would be within the realms of possibility that they could tie in some sort of control system from your phone. You're already able to do that with, you can make a queue and line it up on your TV. So yeah, the possibilities are pretty interesting of what they could do. I'll be sure to keep an eye out for where this story goes. But I think that will be our last story that we discussed today. And that has been this month's Reality Radar. Now that brings us to the end of this week's episode, so I want to say a humongous thank you, very much so, to our wonderful guest. That's Martyn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me yet again.
Wonderful. You're always welcome. Rick, thank you for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And Sam, how was your first podcast experience with us here on Chat TPK?
It's been good. Like you say, to pop my proverbial podcast cherry.
Was it good for you?
It was good. It was good for me. I hope it was good for the listeners as well.
Is that how you always dreamed it would be? Good. I do appreciate you joining us and having our first 4-person pod. Hopefully you all enjoyed it at home. Now, if you are enjoying our podcast here, be sure to check us out on our other platforms. We are obviously going to be We'll be releasing our podcast on a manner of different platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and recently we've also popped it onto things like Audible and Amazon Music. So if those are a platform that you prefer to listen to us on, go for it. It's there. Feel free to access it that way. We're also on YouTube, where we do put out the podcast as a full podcast. We have been discussing about putting out some potential full video ones, so you get to see our lovely faces live and in action. But we do have short content as well, and also every Friday night we'll be doing a Twitch stream, so be sure to follow us on Twitch. Now, I think I am all talked out. My voice is about to give way, so I will bid you adieu. Big thank you again to all the guests. I'll see you all next week. Have a good one.
So long.